Hey, Elaine Williams here, and I was just inspired to share this with people, and I have no makeup on, my hair is wet, I feel really vulnerable, and I thought, you know what, I need to share about this because this is part of what I teach. And I have to say I'm in a little bit of a dilemma because I don't want to repeat myself, because I know some of you have been following me and know me as a friend or an acquaintance through the 12-step world or the restaurant world or the commercial world, the acting world, the Toastmaster world. I have so many amazing communities, and I don't want to repeat myself or bore you, but I'm also having a lot of new people come into my world, and I know that it's important for them to know my story because I feel like I know it makes a difference for people. So I just felt moved to share about being, hey Judy, about being vulnerable and open and real, because I believe that, obviously that's part of my brand and part of who I am, but I think that a lot of us are dying for that real connection. I was doing an interview last night talking about there's a lot of glossy stuff, like the new cool hip thing or the bright shiny penny, that as entrepreneurs, I know myself included, I love to chase the new hot new thing. And so much of life, I think, is learning to just sort of trudge along sometimes, and it's not always glamorous or exciting, and maybe I'm finally growing up, but I wanted to share my story about why I love speaking and the arts and communication and how it has literally saved my life, because some people don't know it. So I just was moved to make this Facebook Live video on a Saturday afternoon, feeling very open and grounded and raw and vulnerable. So here goes. So I grew up in Texas, and my parents divorced when I was 4, and my father remarried a really crazy, undiagnosed bipolar alcoholic addict. We didn't know that at the time, and there was a lot of, my mother was a classic narcissist, and it's sort of a miracle looking back that nobody got shot, because we had guns, because it was Texas and it was the 70s, and it's amazing, like they brought out the worst in each other, and me and my sister were kind of in the middle, and so I grew up in sort of this very chaotic family that on the outside sort of looked like things were okay, but on the inside things were really messy. And in the 70s we didn't have the internet, we didn't have parenting books. We had AA and Al-Anon, but it wasn't so known at the time, and so I always felt this incredible huge hole inside of me, thinking that something was wrong with me, something was wrong with my family, not realizing that I had sort of the addictive gene too. And so there was a huge custody battle. There was just a lot of crazy stuff. And I moved in with my father and my stepmother when I was 12, and then things got even crazier. And I developed 3 addictions in order to sort of cope with the other things that were happening in that house. And I had no tools, and my mother took off for Europe. So it was really challenging. And I share all that because, I'm blessed. Every time there was something bad that happened, I swear I had an angel. Like, I've talked a lot about my choir director, Mrs. Bircher, my horse trainer, Patty Milligan. Like, even though crazy stuff was happening, I always had a teacher or somebody who was there for me. So I'm very clear. I always had, people always had me, and so I just share that because there was a lot of abuse happening at home, and there were really no other adults around who could advocate for me. My father was not able to stand up to my stepmother, and so when I went to go visit my mother when I turned 16, I was in Europe for the summer, and it was blissful to be free and to not be on the receiving end of a lot of crazy stuff. And I thought about running away because it was so rough back in Dallas. And I know that if I had run away in Europe, I'm sure I would be dead or in a really bad situation, because I was 16, I was wild and crazy, I was so angry and I didn't even know why, and I just know that that would not have been a good thing. And the only reason I came back from Europe was because of my choir teacher, Mrs. Bircher, because I wanted to work with her, because I loved theater and I loved working with her and I loved performing. It was my joy, and I realize now that was, part of my gift, and doing musical comedy and making people laugh. And so I'm very clear, like, that's an example to me of how theater saved my life. And when I was younger, wondering at 4, where did my dad go? Why didn't my dad move with us? I don't understand. What does divorce mean? And searching for family, like searching for love, for community, like searching. And then when I did my first show, The Sound of Music, I was like, oh my God, this is applause, and it's like family. I'm in. Like, this is heaven, and I got bit. And I just fell in love with theater and the arts. And I'm truly grateful that I had that through line. And I hope I'm not coming across as like my family was evil or bad. Like, I'm very clear. They were all doing the best they knew how to do with their own addictions, with their own limited resources and very limited knowledge. We didn't have the resources that we do now in the 70s. We just didn't. So I know that they were doing the best they knew how to do. And I was a needy kid. I needed a lot of attention and emotional support, and people just weren't able to give it. And I found that in the theater. And so that's one of the reasons I just love the arts. And, another example is, like, I played piano for 12 years. I was classically trained. I was great at math. Now, the only reason I was good at math was because I played piano. Because music, you have to count and you have to learn how to deal with numbers. So that's another reason I'm so passionate about the arts. And when people talking about cutting the arts, I'm like, no. Like, the arts are a direct connection to math and science. Like, it's all so integrated. So anyway, that's just one of my reasons I love communicating, and I believe that that's how we learn. We hook on to memories or ideas or 1873, who cares? But then when you tell me a story about what happened in 1873 and you put in some details that I can hook into emotionally, I will remember it. I think storytelling should be taught in school, because that's how we learn. That's how we get in touch with our humanity, and so just to complete, so I made it through high school, I got into college, I was every major, I kept wanting to do theater, but trying to grow up. I would cry when I would go to theater because I wasn't on the stage, even if I didn't understand it, like if it was Samuel Beckett or something. I just still was like, my heart was broken. And I kept trying to do like journalism and history and liberal arts undecided and communications. And every time I had to pre-register for the next semester, I would cry. And then finally, my junior year, I was dating this amazing man, and he said, why aren't you in theater? Like, every time you talk about it, you like light up. And I realized, oh my God, I'm trying to please my stepmother. I'm trying to please somebody. I'm trying to get approval from an alcoholic who could never give it. And that's a really never-ending, painful thing there. So I withdrew, and I went and got a musical theater degree. I ended up getting a BA in drama from the University of Texas in Austin. I was on the 10-year plan. And, all this time, I was an active addict, too. I was bulimic. I did drugs. I did alcohol. And then luckily, in 1997, even though I had graduated and I was doing all of these back-to-back shows, I was in great shows, I worked at the best restaurant in Austin, I had a house sitting business, and inside I was miserable. And you tell yourself, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when I get married, or when I get the house, or when I'm just acting more. I'll be happy when I lose the 5 pounds, when I get taller, whatever, right? And I'm finally getting what I always thought I had wanted, and I was still miserable. And a friend of mine, I ran into this person at defensive driving of all places, and I'm like totally hungover, and I have a show that night and rehearsal the next day, and and she says, I think you might be interested in this program, the Landmark Forum. It's about putting the past in the past. And when she said that, I swear to God, I heard like a ding in my brain, like ding. And I was like, ooh. And at this point, I had done therapy, and that was it. That was it. And this is the God thing, the divine timing. So I am like rehearsing a show, performing a show, the maid of honor at my sister's wedding, and I'm moving. So like the only night I had off in the whole month of August was the night I could go to her seminar. And so it was the one night, seriously. So I go to this seminar, and everybody's like happy and lit up. They're like, I just made my first movie. I just bought my first house. Like, they're happy. And I'm like, oh, I hated them. Like, because I wanted to be like them. And I was so miserable on the inside, and I didn't understand why. And so I go into the breakout room, and there is this guy, and he is this brother and this sister, and they're going on and on about their family. And the rest of us are like, ah. But the leader was listening to them in such a way, so compassionate. I had never seen one human being listen the way this man was listening to this brother and sister. And I couldn't not watch it. I was riveted. Now, I still didn't sign up. I ended up signing up later. But I ended up doing the Landmark Forum several months later because I was back-to-back booked. I was in a wedding and shows and whatever. And in that 3-day course, I had a huge epiphany. I was able to sit there and really see how all of my anger and rage, which was justified. My stepmother had borrowed money and then messed up my credit and not paid me back while she was buying my stepbrother a house with the insurance money she'd gotten when she burned our house down. I mean, like, crazy stuff. It sounds like, soap opera stuff. I had a long list of things, justifiable. But I saw in that 3-day course how the anger and resentment was killing me and how it was leaking out onto all of my relationships with men, with bosses, with roommate, like everything. I got so clear. And I had a spiritual awakening, and I was able to forgive my dad and my stepmother, and it was like this huge epiphany, and I felt like black energy leaving my body. I mean, it was wild. It was wild. And I'm truly grateful because that set in motion my healing, and that for me was a real line of demarcation in my journey. And I have been a hungry student for transformational work ever since. And I have always been in a course or had a coach or a mentor or 5 for 20 years now. And I forget that because, I'm living my life and doing a lot of different things in the arts, but I feel like that is an important story to tell if you don't know my background, because, I didn't come from this sort of lofty, supportive, I had to kind of make my own way. I didn't have connections in New York or LA. I didn't, there was a lot of stuff I just kind of had to hustle. And I share that because one of the through lines of all of this is the arts. And how I love the arts because it's been an outlet for me, and that's one reason I've loved stand-up comedy, because you can go up on stage and rant or rage or make fun of yourself or your family or whatever, and it's one of the last few places we still have freedom of speech, that things aren't censored, and that's one reason I love speaking, and I love working with my students and clients to help them craft their stories. And everybody has a story, and some of them are I think all of them are amazing, and sometimes we don't even see the amazing part because we're like, yeah, we're used to it. And so I wanted to share my story because I feel like some people have been asking for it, and a lot of people don't know all of my history and background with my 3 addictions and overcoming assault, and I've done all this work on the college campuses and starting to do a little bit of it in the high schools and in my community here in Montclair, New Jersey. But I just wanted to share, like, wherever you are, like, there's always hope, and there's so much help, And even if you feel embarrassed or ashamed or depressed or whatever about what you're going through or what you've been through, you never know how your experience can help someone else. And I truly believe that we come to this planet to learn and to heal our own stuff so that we can then go help others heal with their stuff. So anyway, I was just moved to share this. And I'll say one more thing. Like, I am criticized for being too much, too raw, too vulnerable, that it's too much and it's not professional enough. And, you know, thank you. Like, I get it. Like, for some people, I am too much. I've been too much for a lot of guys, but that's a whole nother one-woman show. But that's who I am. And my brand is powerful vulnerability. So I feel like that's who I am. And so if I'm too much for you, I get it. So, you know, you don't have to keep watching me, or you can come back in a few months and whatever. But to me, I feel like this is what is missing for a lot of people. You know, I am so blessed to be really immersed in the 12-step community here. And so part of the 12-step world is to go and really be able to share anonymously in safe spaces what's going on, or what you're dealing with, or how you're trying to heal from the alcoholism or addiction or narcissism or whatever you grew up in or married to or whatever. I mean, most of us, I would say 99% of the Americans, the people that I have known in my life, have been affected in some way by addiction. It's everywhere, and we just still don't talk about it enough. So I feel like that's one of my superpowers, is to be able to be vulnerable in a powerful way. And that's one reason I love stand-up comedy. And that's one reason I love speaking, because we still need that connection. And even though technology is awesome, and I was listening to this thing on NPR this morning about AR and how they're being able to do like electronic fake sensory touching, and I mean, it's wild. But I hope that we never lose face-to-face, that we never lose that need for skin to skin, you know, because that's our humanity. And that's why I love stories, because it's so easy to be dehumanized, you know, like, come on, let's go. I have a 25 to-do list by 10 o'clock this morning. Let's go, you know, right? Like, and then stories can help us, like, slow down and remember we're not human doings, we're human beings. And, you know, so much of I feel like the culture is, you know, if you do this and you get this, then you can be happy. So it's like, do, get, have, be. And I really think it's really be. Can you be happy now? Can you be happy now in the face of your debt, or being overweight or unhealthy, or a bully for a boss, or whatever? Can you be happy now in this moment? And then when you can come from happy, then it can enforce your behaviors, or then what can you do? What can you choose that's love instead of fear? And then from that, what can you create? You know, what if it was that model? So anyway, lots of food for thought here, but I was just moved to share my story because I've been getting a lot of, you know, questions about it, and I'm starting to teach more and more, and which I'm so blessed, and I've been asked to speak more and more, so there's a lot of cool things coming down the pipe. And I just thought, you know what, I should, if you're new and you just didn't know my background, there it is in a nutshell. So anyway, whatever you're doing on this beautiful Saturday in June, I hope you're enjoying it. And I would love to hear from you if you want to know more, if you want to get my free gift about how to tell stories that create instant connection. Message me below. And thanks so much for watching. And if you know of somebody who is struggling with addiction, or feeling isolated or alone, or wants to get into speaking, please pass this on. And I love you, and thanks for watching. And I hope to see you on stage or screen soon, or to connect somehow. All right, thanks for now. Bye.